now.
You know what's been lacking in video games? Jurassic World. Every older property under the sun has been getting at least decent console games to play at their strengths or are at least experimental, so why not Jurassic? Yeah, no, I'm not counting the mobile games. There used to be plenty of Jurassic games in the past, though the most recent of note was the Telltale game from 2010. The one I remember a lot was the PS1 Lost World Jurassic Park game, which is complete bullshit. I'm not saying that there haven't been any Jurassic World games. Frontier have made 2 great park builder games. I say because I haven't played them, though I can tell that they did their homework and made sure not to contradict anything, for the most part. However, Coatsink made a horror game set in Jurassic called Jurassic World Aftermath. It originally started as a VR exclusive game, a market Jurassic has surprisingly made a strong appearance in. However, was recently ported to the Switch for about $30. Originally, Aftermath came out in 2020 for the Oculus to tie into Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, as it makes a lot of references to it.
Pick up. Come on, pick up. Me. It's Amelia Everett.
Amelia? You're the engineer. Is Mills out of his mind? I gave him a specific list of personnel.
We're trapped.
Speaking of, we should probably get into the story. You play as Sam, who's a hacker and a complete blank slate. Yeah, we got a silent protagonist, but trust me, there's other characters. In fact, you don't see any people in the game, though you do hear them through radios and recordings.
Juan, I thought you fixed that door.
I did. I found the handle. It's there someplace.
What?
Look, they're huge.
You're mainly hearing things from Dr. Mia Everett, who hired you to do a quick job of retrieving some data left on the island, 2 years after it fell.
1 hour to enter the lab and recover the genome.
Mia.
Once the dinghy's loaded, it's straight back for takeoff, scheduled no later than...
Mia.
In and out, 1 hour, simple. It quickly becomes not simple as you crash into the NMS Center, a museum on the surface but engaged in some more interesting projects. As you play, you learn about her relationship to Dr. Wu, who's firmly still in his asshole phase.
Okay. The board will look into any misconduct and be in touch if this proceeds to disciplinary.
Fine. We're done?
Yes, we're done. No, actually, we're not done. I want an explanation.
It was a pitch meeting.
Simon Masrani wants carnival attractions to impress the masses. He understands neither the nuance nor implication of what I'm trying to accomplish. The damage could be irreparable. To this lab, to the board's whole perception of what—
There it is! Perception. How everyone sees you. I must have been crazy. When was there ever room at Jurassic World for anyone except Dr. Wu and his black hole of an ego?
I don't understand. When you started, there was none of this entitlement.
You didn't know my name.
I don't know anyone's name. But I recognize your talent. I gave you my time and a place on my team. What do you want me to say?
That other people matter. That we made a difference to this park. That I made a difference. But you can't.
Unbelievable.
That's right, sneer and walk out, like always.
You also learn more about NMS and about what InGen was involved with, namely a separate behavioral program involving 3 raptors.
I'll level with you. The NMS Center, we worked on the raptor code, using gene suppression to modify behavior. And a portion of that involved live trials. We bred 3. The growth was inhibited. They were just for internal testing. No one outside of the center even knew. Not Hoskins, not Owen. And sure as hell not the public. Look, hate me later. Right now, just keep moving.
They aren't given names, but I call them green, orange, and blue-gray. It's not the most mind-blowing story ever, but it works well for the kind of game that they're going for, and it's interesting to learn about the building as you explore the different sections. My favorite being the server room near the end of the first part of the collection, though make sure you have your brightness up.
These raise up the central cooling units.
Mia also has a nice arc as you listen to her musings and conversations with Dr. Wu and Malcolm.
No, chaos and randomness are emphatically not the same. We find random events, or so-called acts of God, comforting because they average over time. And then we invent luck and karma and imagine that the universe coalesces into some harmonious state, that everything balances out. No, life doesn't work that way. It's sensitive and temporal. And the smallest event has the potential to create catastrophic change, to hurl us down a terrifying new path. And we'll never see it coming. We'll never know the cause. The only question is,
can we correct it?
She wanted to become someone who changed the world as she grew up in Montana, but conflicted with Wu over her achievements. Justifiably so, but also losing track of what she wanted all along. So apparently the game is in canon limbo, or soft canon. Basically like all the stories that aren't the main movies, and the last 2 seasons of Camp Cretaceous. However, it actually does fit quite nicely with the movies and Camp Cretaceous, with only a hiccup or two. It's actually surprising that they actually foreshadowed the events in Dominion.
A few years ago, I trialed a monitor lizard polymerase to promote parthenogenesis. You remember the result?
You know, when we made Blue, we used monitor lizard DNA to fill in the gaps in her genome. Monitor lizards can reproduce without a mate. So, Beta and Blue are genetically identical. And
a notable example is the idea of bioluminescent dinosaurs, which is the 3rd time that this has appeared in side material. I love how Mia talks about it. I could honestly believe this was made up by a boardroom.
Bioluminescence. They were so convinced it was going to be the next big thing.
The ending is also pretty nice and a little unexpected. Again, not a huge revolution, but a simple, straightforward ending that actually had a decent twist and a pretty good confrontation with Gray. As for the gameplay, it's solid overall, but there are some clunky parts. Again, this is a port of a VR game, so there's going to be some control differences. For the record, I played with a Switch Pro controller, which worked well, most of the time. As a hacker, you have to hack into computers and doors, which involve minigames. They were fine, though some of the ones that rely on the left stick could be very tricky as it was tough to control. Thankfully, these minigames don't appear in critical areas, often. The main gameplay involves you sneaking around and hiding in areas as the 3 velociraptors stalk around to look for you. You have tools to help you, such as these lockers that you can hide in and lock. There's also separate tools that you can use. The main one you'll be using is the AI assist that can trigger electrical equipment like printers and loudspeakers to distract the raptors. They also tease that you can activate switches, but it never really came up except for this one time. Once you get good with it though, you can actually do some cool stuff to sneak around the raptors. I like using it to reset their clock to see where they are and buy me time to move or do what I need to do. You also have a run option, which is nice, but it'll get you into more trouble than it helps. There's also this crouch, which, get used to it because it's the quietest way to get around and you'll need it to hide under desks. You can pair it with your run, which I basically never used, though near the end I was able to pull it off for a quick save here or there. In a very nice touch, velociraptors aren't the only dinosaurs you encounter. There's Rexy, of course, later in the game, a Triceratops to help break things, and notably the scariest use of the Dilophosaurus in the movie franchise so far. It's mainly just the velociraptors. I don't agree when people say that Blue was domesticated, but if you want raptors hunting you, then this is the game for you. I will say, I do wish that there was more distinguishing these raptors from each other. I figured that Gray is their leader, but that's about it. I ended up seeing Green the most, but she's not that different from Orange or Gray, for that matter, in terms of behavior. I was thinking that they would have different ways of hunting you down, or different levels of aggression, but they're just kind of all the same. I also found that if you go into a vent or a slightly long hiding spot, they'll snarl and then just forget that you're there. There's logs that explain how their vision is basically motion-based, but I think that's a little lame. However, I can forgive it considering what they were doing and the price tag. Considering how this came out and Universal shut down Primal Core, a shooter mobile game, so fast after it came out, I really hope they start going in this direction more. I would love to see CodeSync do some sort of spiritual sequel to this idea, and I want Universal to take notes. Hell, look at some of the fan games that people are making. There's clearly a desire for Jurassic games that Universal needs to fulfill. Yeah, I know a Jurassic World shooter would basically be Dino Crisis, but, you know, nobody needs to know that.
You did it. You crazy son of a bitch, you did it.